There you go. That got a ton of airplay, by the way. That's cool. Oh my God.
Little young. Yeah.
Well, we were all young once, right?
Yeah. Yes, we were. And yes, we are. So yeah,
Thank you for playing that.
you're welcome.
33 years ago that was released.
Isn't that, it's really amazing.
That went to number 9 on the NAC chart. So
Really?
yeah, got a ton of airplay. I was doing interviews, stations all over the country. It was like in heavy rotation on 100 stations. So
Wow.
yes.
It's amazing, huh, that it's so long ago. And I mean, that's a lot of times that's what I end up talking about is just kind of life realizations along the way because the past is, gone and it's really all about right now, right? Because
Right, exactly.
we just keep living right here.
But that was enjoyable for me, at least. Just hearing that, it's like, oh yeah, it's, I felt like a really good way to start this thing.
You probably haven't heard it in a while, right?
Hmm.
I'm guessing because
No, I
I don't
haven't
listen
heard
to
it.
my stuff.
I don't really don't make a habit of listening to my stuff too much, but yeah, but it's nice, that was a nice collaboration with John Beasley, and
So John Beasley produced that
yeah, he
record?
produced it. That was the first record he produced. As
Oh
also,
my God.
yeah, that was the first album that I was an artist on as well. So 1990.
Oh,
And yeah, and then we went off to Japan. That was on for a Japanese label called Pony
ah,
Canyon Records. And so I mean, it's sort of a sad story because it's like it started off with a bang, with getting all this airplay and everything. And then there was a fledgling label that none of the artists on their first outing made a profit. And so the Japanese felt it was an embarrassment. So they didn't just, stop putting money into it. They actually went the extra step of pulling all the product out of the record stores.
really?
They used,
That's
yes,
weird.
yes, no, it was pretty harsh. So all of a sudden, I went from a heavy rotation, 100 stations, a medium rotation on another 50 stations. And I was doing interviews with stations in Boston and Austin and Sacramento, everywhere. I was a core artist right here in Los Angeles on the Smooth Jazz station. Case, well, whatever that was. So if you remember, that's the Smooth Jazz station here in LA.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, and then all of a sudden, since they pulled a product, the station said, well, we're not going to play your stuff anymore because there's no product for people to go to the stores to get. So it's like, okay, bye.
That's the worst example. That's the worst example of horrible business Japanese men. You know, there is some. I love Japan. I've been there many times and I really love the people, but I don't like the business people.
Yeah.
That kind of business people. They're horrible. They're just like, I don't know. It's like their minds are from the ancient times or something, feudal lords or.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like Aretha Franklin's first album didn't do well. Bonnie Raitt's first album didn't do well. It's not unusual for, artists to not do great on their first release.
Yeah,
It's more common than Huey Lewis in the News. It took them
right.
till like their third or fourth album, and then boom, they had that
Yeah,
big
yeah.
album. So it's more often the case than not. So whatever, like you said, it's in the past. That's a done deal.
Really interesting. I
Movie,
actually, I saw John Beasley the other night, his
video.
Monkestra, and it was his
Oh, you went
birthday.
there.
Yeah, and it was really satisfying. It was great. It was a great gig, and he was having fun, and the band sounded great. The songs, everybody, a lot of people you knew there. It was really fun. It was great.
I probably should go on.
Yeah,
Well, that's cool.
yeah.
So would he have like a 15-piece band with him, or
16, yeah.
yeah?
And he hurt his finger. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, his finger on his right hand, like one of these two digits. Anyway, he got it crushed in a door or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, several weeks ago, and
Oh,
it's just been building back up
for
to
him,
using.
that's huge.
Yeah, he played, but I don't think he was at his best playing,
Wow,
just because of what he said.
wow.
Um,
And
it
that
was
guy
fun.
is so busy, and that's I was talking to him at length for producing this,
Yeah.
And I had to keep putting it off and putting it off because he was so busy. Last year, he was on the road 300 days.
God.
I mean, but he's doing all this stuff. He won 2 Grammys, and he was the musical director of that International Jazz Day.
Yeah, I was actually at I think I was at the first one in Japan.
Hmm. I agree with you about the Japanese people, though. They're a lovely culture,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed going there, and like I was so anxious to go and check it out and explore and everything. And everybody, I didn't I knew about 4 words of Japanese, but they could see me trying to get places, and they would literally walk with me 3 blocks out of their way just to get me to where I was trying to go. So it was really
It's
nice.
a nice culture, it really is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I especially like the farmers and the artists. And outside of Tokyo, I'm not super fond of Tokyo, but I like the Far Islands, and they're beautiful people, very very beautiful.
You
Yeah.
didn't drive in Tokyo, did you?
I didn't personally drive anywhere in
Yeah.
Japan,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Exactly.
driven.
Exactly.
One
Yes.
time I was in Tokyo on the freeway
That
in
would
stuck
scare the hell out of
traffic,
me.
and I had to go to the bathroom, and traffic was at a
Oh,
standstill. So I won't tell you the rest of the story, but
okay.
it wasn't very ladylike, but I
Uh,
didn't really care at that moment.
oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have a friend here who has great questions. Taylor Hatch, he's a guitar player.
Okay.
He's at school in Texas at UMT.
Okay.
And anyway, he has some great questions always. And I like to, of course, think of my own questions, but I like to use his questions too. So
All
he
righty.
says, one of them is, out of all the session work you've done, was there any one moment that highly influenced you as a musician?
Is a really interesting question. It's hard to single it down to just one, but I mean, obviously working with Michael Jackson was that was really a highlight for me, and to be able to work with that guy was, you know, it,
Yeah.
it was very exciting because he had pretty much single-handedly rescued the music business. That was in 1980, and the whole music business was in the doldrums. They're just transitioning into CDs at that time,
Uh-huh.
and he had left the Jackson 5, and he released his first solo album that sold 10 million copies off the wall, and here I was in the studio with
Whoa.
him, and so it was just like, wow. So
Uh,
that was just really cool as far as just satisfying it. And I didn't suck either that it was a duet with Paul McCartney. I didn't get to meet Sir McCartney, but so that was cool. But I mean, there's been some interesting stuff that I did. One of the things that really enjoyed doing was working with Gary Wright. I don't know if you know who that is.
yeah. Who was that?
Dreamweaver.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah.
That was his biggest hit, was Dreamweaver. And so he called me up for a session at his house in Palos Verdes. And uh, he didn't like the price I quoted him, so he got somebody else. And then about an hour or so later, this guy couldn't cut it. And he calls me back. So I drove over there, and he had worked out a solo on synthesizer that he wanted me to duplicate. He wanted a unison line with that. And it took me 7 different harmonicas. One of them I custom tuned right on the spot to, exactly replicate the part he had written out. So that was kind of fun. And that one's called It Ain't Right. Yeah.
Ah,
So you can check that one out. But you
Can we
know.
hear that if I go to find that?
I think you might, that one's a little harder to find, but some of the other stuff I did, like the one with the Art Garfunkel, you can find that one. I don't. I think I looked for It Ain't Right, and I don't know if I was able to find it.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, it looks like Shane Codd did it, and I don't know who Shane Codd is. I guess that's a person now, but he's all over. Or Thornburn Riserger. Oh, interesting. So I guess that song has had a life.
Oh, interesting.
Of course, there's one called It Ain't Right, written by Little Walter. That's not the one, right?
You know it ain't right, dude. No, it's a completely different song.
Yeah. Creedence Clearwater. It's interesting that has different, um, different artists. Um,
But yeah, so you can find the chromatics though I did, and I remember you the Art Garfunkel song there, or maybe the one with Smokey Robinson and Dolly Parton. I know you by heart. Those
and we should do so. We should listen to some of those.
those those
Yeah.
are those you can pull up on YouTube. So they're there.
So, what say?
Also, say of course is there.
What? Give me one.
Oh, I remember you, Art Garfunkel.
Okay, let's see. Here it
And
is.
that
Okay,
that was
so
originally uh
yeah.
what was the guy's name? Was it Hightower? It was a guy who was a precursor to the Beatles, and he released that song and had a hit with it. And it had harmonica, it had diatonic harmonica on it. And anyway, but the Art Garfunkel's version is a lot nicer. Anyway, see what you think.
So, if I should I play the whole song or should I just
Uh,
play, you know, like a part of it? Where, I mean, do you hear you throughout?
no, there's a solo section in it.
Okay, let's see if I can find it.
Out of the blue, the thrill of their love, when I shall tell them I remember you.
That's it.
That's it.
I guess that's
That,
it.
that was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
That was really
Always hard to hear old stuff, but but
well, your tone was beautiful.
you
Your phrasing was beautiful. So,
certainly drenched it in reverb there, didn't they?
so, well, let me take over from Taylor for a minute, but Taylor's
Okay.
questions will come back because he's cool.
Okay.
Um, so, I guess, like, I don't remember the whole thinking of myself like I wanted to be a singer and this is why and all that. But I do remember that I started really
Yeah.
young, and my dad was a sax player. My mom had been a singer. My two twin sisters who are older, they sang and one played piano. But but I remember wanting to be a singer and this strong desire. And I'm just curious, do you remember wanting to be a harmonica player specifically, or
I No, I had never had any intention. It just kind of grabbed me. I went on a surfing trip. I mean, I'm sure you saw that the story there, but yeah, I was about 17 or 18. I went on a surfing trip with some buddies of mine, and the guy whose car I was in, there was a harmonica in there, and I just started playing it, and I just thought, wow, this is really cool, And I didn't even wind up going surfing that day, and the waves were good and everything, and I love surfing, but I just connected with it, and I just thought this is something I can do, and I can really enjoy doing. So I just went out and started buying harmonicas, and I started going through all my records. This is back, in the days of albums and playing them on the turntable. So I wrote down the keys to most all the songs on all my records and started playing with them, and you know, and in short order, I started I started doing this little gig at a place called Sherlock Suitcase with the owner of the place, and we played some Beatles songs, and he paid me like $10 a night and all the beer I could drink, and all my friends would come down, and we just had a great time, So that was the total genesis of it. But no, I never had any intention of trying to make a living on it. It just kind of all gradually evolved, and so the first real, well, yeah, I mentioned that I started playing and working at the Great American Food and Beverage Company, and there were some some famous people, Danny Elfman and Cathy Sagal, that worked there, and all the waiters and bus people and stuff. They were almost all of them were musicians, and during the course of meals would entertain the customers there. And so this particularly Sue Richmond, who's I'm still friends with, and we chat on Facebook and stuff, she started recommending me. My very first recording session was Boone's Farm apple wine, and she recommended me for that, and a guy named Dan Dalton produced it. And I met this guy also who was 4 times Grand National Fiddle Champion, Byron Berline. So that was really cool, because Byron Berline was, he's a big deal. He's a great fiddle player, and just a real interesting kind of tall, oaky guy, from Oklahoma, that kind of. Yeah. And so he had a great story about how he did Country Honk, the country version of the Rolling Stones Honky Tonk version.
Oh.
Right, because they did a reprise to that. There's the original, great rock tune, Honky Tonk Woman. Then they did, it's called Country Honk, and Byron Berline played on that. And I knew that when I met him, because I'm such a nut, with people that play on records and stuff. So anyway, he was telling us that the Rolling Stones had him standing out on the sidewalk in London, and they stuck a microphone out the bathroom window. So he was playing on the side, and the car horns that you hear on the track are real car horns.
Oh my God. Wow.
So that was a fun story.
Yeah, that's great.
And I bumped into Byron several more times. And he used to have a regular gig at the Banjo Cafe in Venice. And Vince Gill would join them. He had a great bluegrass band. It was so fun. And I would sit in with him and play harmonica on this bluegrass music. And they were going, wow, harmonica and bluegrass, huh? And then Vince Gill would get him to sing. And then you hear this, that's his voice, his voice is so great. Yeah. Vince Gill, just such an awesome musician. So I rubbed shoulders with him way back then. And I also, another time I bumped into Dustin Hoffman at the Banjo Cafe, because I used to go there fairly often. So I guess, so I met him there, and then he invited me to his birthday party, and then Tom Waits played at his birthday party. So I got to meet Tom Waits there.
Wow.
It was like this chain smoking, coffee drinking.
Yeah.
Weird,
Yeah.
So Banjo Cafe. Now it's a Thai restaurant.
Yeah. Did you ever play the Blah Blah Cafe?
The Blah Blah
In North Hollywood, or Studio City area? That
Oh,
was
name
that
is
was really
so
happening in
that name
the
is so familiar.
it's happening in
But,
kind of the mid to late 70s.
yeah.
It had a lot of people, Al Jarreau, a whole shitload of people played
Okay. Yeah.
there,
Yeah. I
kind of
did
coming
meet
up.
Al. So Al was very complimentary to me. Al is such a great musician. You
Yeah.
so that was really nice from him. Uh,
Did you ever listen to Toots Thielsman for like listening to, you know,
well, if you ever want to just feel like you're getting hammered musically, yeah, of course I listen to Toots. I mean, it's like asking a sax player if you ever listen to John Coltrane, or Charlie Parker. I'm serious. I mean, Toots is in that
yeah.
league.
Yeah,
Toots
yeah, yeah.
just was a total monster. Quincy Jones, winner of like 27 Grammy. Everybody knows who Quincy Jones is. Everybody, right?
Yeah.
He said Toots Thielemans is probably the greatest musician I've ever worked with.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
You've reached the pinnacle.
yes. Well, I mean, the thing is, Toots started playing when he was about 3 years old. He started on accordion, and he just, that-
Yeah.
he was phenomenal. And there's a great CD I heard recently with him and uh, the violinist, the jazz hawk guy.
Um,
I'm trying to remember his name, with
Steph,
Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli. You got it.
yeah.
Yes, Stefan Grappelli. There's a great CD with Toots and Stefan Grappelli that I had never known about. And it sounds like they did it live. And it just is such a great example of Toots's total musical ESP, where he just weaves in and out of Stefan Grappelli's playing. And they do these interesting songs, but one of them is 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. You'd never
Wow.
expect a jazz guy to do that song, but it works. It's a
Oh,
lovely
yeah.
album. Yeah,
Interesting.
so
Wow, that's interesting.
check-
I mean, it's a cool tune though. I mean, and they probably slowed it down a little, and yeah, I can imagine.
uh,
That's really nice.
yeah. It's a great recording. So, but yeah,
Oh,
Toots.
and okay, so we'll talk about this again, but you have a jazz gig coming up at Catalina's.
Thank you. Yes, that is what this
And
is
I'm
all
going to write
about.
it in the comments. So tell me again, I know, but tell me again which date?
It's Wednesday, the 18th, a week from today.
October 18th at Catalina's. And you have a good band, as I recall, right?
They don't suck. I mean, my buddy Stuart Elster, who is a co-producer on my recording and an old
Right.
friend of mine. And I have a story about Stu, of course.
But first, tell me the
Yep.
band.
Okay. Lyman Medeiros,
Oh, yeah, he's great. Lyman
who's,
Medeiros.
you know,
Yep.
and Kendall on bass, upright bass, and
Kendall K.
Kendall K. Yeah.
Ah,
So, I mean,
cool.
these guys are monsters.
Great. Okay. So I wrote that down. Okay. Now you can feel free to tell me about Stu
Oh,
Elster.
okay. So I've known Stu a long, long time.
Yeah.
I would say over 40 years, right? We played in a
Sure.
band together in the 80s,
Yeah.
right? And so he met his wife on one of my gigs.
Yeah.
Now they have grandkids together. So they're still together. So that's my happy Stu Elster story that I just love to tell, because it just doesn't get much better than that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Stu is this total mensch guy who
He's a great guy. Yeah.
Stu is awesome. He's so supportive,
Very supportive.
and he flies out to Albuquerque to see his son and his grandkids, and what can I tell you? Then he's a beautiful player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I pretty much I haven't accepted any jazz gigs without Stu being
Oh,
available.
cool.
So
So tell me a little bit more about this gig. I mean, have you been, yeah, From looking at your career, it seems like you've played all styles. You weren't like single-minded. And but speaking to you a little bit
That's
before
true.
this,
Yeah.
it seemed like jazz was get had become a little more prevalent. Is that true or?
Yeah, I mean, jazz has really been on the back burner because I have to tell you this too. Speaking of John Beasley, you know,
Yeah,
his dad is Rule Beasley. I don't know if Rule's still alive or not.
I
I
don't know either.
I
Maybe.
took music courses with Rule,
Yeah.
and including jazz musicianship and contemporary harmony and stuff. So yeah, so even back then, I was dabbling in it, but back then I was in the 70s, I was in a band called Hot Lips and Fingertips, and we did a little bit of jazzy stuff, but a lot of it was Irish fiddle tunes.
Uh-huh.
It was really, really fun to play on the harmonica. And so we had two fiddle players and me on the harmonica, and I was doing unison lines with them. And it was a great sound. We had this huge following. Yeah, so I was dabbling in jazz then, and I started, getting the Jamie Aebersold records, and I wound up going in the early 80s to take lessons with this piano player who worked with Jamie Font. Yeah, he was a bass
Oh yeah.
player.
Sure.
His school of music. He was a bass player for Chick Corea.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I started studying with that stuff, and I learned a lot of different scales, and I started really focusing a lot of energy into playing the chromatic harmonica, because there's just for the initiates here, grossly speaking, there's basically two different kinds of harmonica: this chromatic, like this guy here, and the diatonic, which is like this right here. So the diatonic, this is where I started out, and these are a lot more user friendly because they're tuned to a key, so you sort of can't play a wrong note. That's overstated, but so they're and another gross generalization is if you think of the white notes in the piano, 7 tones there, the major scale. That's what these have. They have the 7-tone scale. So these are great for playing blues too. So they get a sound that the chromatic will never achieve. You're not going to get that kind of greedy, nasty sound out of the chromatic, but the chromatic has so much range as an instrument that you can play technically what any other single note instrument can play,
Yeah.
without resorting to, I mean, I'm kind of getting the weeds here, but there's a technique of diatonic playing called overblowing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So like, I don't know if you've heard of Howard Levy or not.
Sure.
He's very famous, probably the best diatonic player on the planet, and he's
Uh-huh.
really gone far with the overblows. I mean, I was doing some overblows in the 70s, but I didn't develop the way he did, and I gravitated more towards this because the purity of every tone. But an overblow would be like this. So that last note was an overblow. So the natural pitch on that 6-hole blow is an F, and by pushing pressure through that reed, it pops it up a minor third to the A flat. So on the chromatic,
I'm sorry, but we can't hear you. You
you
might
can't hear me?
try, no, you might try putting on the original sound for musicians. Are you hip to that?
No, I'm not.
Okay, let me direct you into that. It might work, might change for us, but go down to that microphone at the bottom and go to the arrow and go to auto settings. Like we did before.
Yeah, audio settings.
Yeah, and then let's see, go into audio, and then under audio profile, you'll see the third one down says original sound for musicians.
Yes, that's high. Let's see. Okay, stereo audio, maybe. Should I click that?
Yeah, click high fidelity music mode,
Yeah,
echo,
that's
echo cancellation, and
okay.
stereo audio.
Okay. The stereo.
You have original
Yeah.
sound clicked, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if you go back to your regular screen, you should see maybe up at the left, at the top, it says original sound for musicians. You should be able to see that now. Now I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, here I can hear you now.
You still can't hear that?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. That's so bizarre.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's
Live,
I just
live or performance audio. I probably need to click that.
try that.
Yes. Did
I
that
can
help?
hear, yeah, I can hear a little bit of that. A little bit. Anyway, not great, but
Really?
yeah.
Wow. Because I'm playing very loud. That's odd because I do Skype lessons. It's just, all the time. Yeah. And I hear,
Might be better, different, and
but you hear me fine speaking though, right?
totally fine.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
I know it's a problem sometimes. I don't like it, but I do like to use Zoom.
Okay.
But the live performance audio, that seemed to work if that's still clicked.
Audio settings. Yes, it is live performance audio. Beta recommended for multiple instruments or voices. Yeah. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
I can hear you speaking fine. A little bit. Anyway, half of it I got. Okay. Well, anyway,
That's unfortunate.
yeah.
So
Um,
what are we talking about here? Now,
um,
lost my train of thought here.
let's see.
Oh, we're talking about overblows and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Oh, right.
the chromatic gives you, and unfortunately, I wish I could, be heard so you can really hear. But every single note on here, all 12 tones of the scale, are just sweet and in tune. So you can. I feel I can just play some really lovely music on this instrument.
Yeah.
It's all about your mastery of it and just not letting, like Dwayne Allman said, I don't let any sound escape that I don't intend,
Yeah.
and so that is the key there. So my thinking on this here, and this is really the concept behind this baby here, is to just play this chromatic harmonica as if it were any other instrument, like a sax, a trumpet, or a clarinet, and I'm not playing, the Susanna or something like that, like you would expect a harmonica player to play, what I'm saying? I was playing, like lines that a jazz musician would play, and melodies. So so that's what the concept is behind this. Straight ahead acoustic jazz quartet with upright bass, acoustic piano, drums, and the harmonica replacing the normal sax or drums. Sax or trumpet.
What material is on the record? Is it the same that you're going to perform at Catalina's?
Yes, I'll be doing almost everything that's on here. Footprints, Wayne Shorter, Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. Stardust, Work Song, My Favorite Things, Boplicity. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I sing it.
Really? There's lyrics?
Yeah, there are.
Oh, wow. Autumn Leaves, CJ and Blues, Bye Bye Blackbird, Prelude to a Kiss, and Cold Duck Time.
Oh, excellent. Cold duck time, yeah.
Yeah,
The work song.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a special guest who wants to come in.
Okay.
Let's see. Come on, Stu. Come on, baby.
Is
I
that
want to
Stu?
see you. To listen, Stu, you just go to Facebook. But to be part of it, you're coming on to Zoom. So come on. There you are.
Stu! Hey.
Hey,
Stu
Yeah.
Ouster, ladies and gentlemen.
nobody else is listening, right?
Uh,
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Just finished the rehearsal. Ed Romero, you know Ed, Cathy?
yeah, sure.
Okie dokie.
Cool.
What did I miss, or what can I? How can
Well,
I?
I didn't know you were coming on with
I
us.
didn't know either until I looked at the clock and I said, "Hey, maybe you're still there." So
Well, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can contribute whatever you want to our interview here.
okay.
We're just hanging, we can talk about anything.
Oh, well, did Chris tell you how we met and all about my history with Chris?
Yes, and he said you met your wife
I did.
back then too.
And I haven't forgiven him, but it's all right. Yeah, that was a long time ago, over 40 years ago.
Yeah, well, we go back then too.
Yeah, you and I do for sure.
Yeah.
And
But apparently, I wasn't singing the same gigs Chris was.
well, Chris had his like a blues harp and a R&B roots blues band, and we kind of went our separate ways. But after Barbara Morrison passed, Chris reached back out and said,
Oh,
he heard us at Vibrato, I guess, one night, and said how much he wanted to. He said, "I've been doing the chromatic harp. I really want to do some jazz." So we got together. Maybe he's told you this already. It's not much, but Chris came over and played, and I said, "Chris, let's start with the melodies. Just nail these melodies. That's where it all starts." And he's been working. Man, he's an obsessive compulsive practicer.
that's
And
good.
he's played some beautiful stuff on the CD. My favorites were Stardust. He had a beautiful rendition of Stardust.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. And there we go.
Yeah, Stardust, Chris.
Yeah, so we have the release. It's finally been manufactured. We're at Catalina's a week from tonight.
Yeah, that should be a great night.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, and he told you he was playing. It's we got Kendall Kay on drums and Lyman Madero on bass.
Great band.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
And that's it.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, Stu, for those of you watching, you already know he's a great pianist, and he lives in LA, and
I do from LA. Yeah.
yeah, he's played with many, many great people over the years.
Yeah, I grew up here. I had no idea why there were so many great musicians. I realized they came from all over the world here to play. So it definitely raised my bar quite a bit. If I was in a small town, I was just like a local guy. Just wow, there's some really amazing musicians. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and you and Chris played in the old days, like Chris, like at these clubs that you were telling me about, some of these little clubs.
We met. It was a club, that Sunset Saloon, which was not
yeah.
there anymore, but right at the Venice Pier, right where it meets the sand.
I remember that.
And we had a little band. We had Cliff Hugo was the bass player, my good buddy Cliff, and Sinclair
Yeah.
Lott was our drummer.
Yep.
Going way back. We're in the Wayback Machine, and a couple different guitar players. And yeah, we had a great time.
That was a cool club, and bikers used to hang out there, and they loved.
Oh
the
yeah.
jazz.
Yeah. Sunset
Yeah.
Saloon was a great hang. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hinano Burger right down the street. Yeah. It was quite back in the day.
Did I ever tell you about when Dennis Wilson came in? Is that the drummer of the Beach Boys? Did I get is that the right name? Is it Dennis Wilson?
Wilson, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Dennis Wilson, yeah,
Yeah.
he's the Beach Boys,
the
yeah.
drummer, right? The Beach Boys. Right? So he came in there, and he started to steal our drummer's vintage snare. Dennis Wilson was like a maniac, you know. So
were you, Chris?
Right.
Yeah.
But not as much as him. I wasn't a user, you know. So anyway, and then I met him and worked with him. He was talking about having me play in the next Beach Boys record, but he died before that even happened. But that
You need Dennis Wilson, man. Yeah, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, you know.
It's bizarre. So bring it up to the present here. So what the way Stu and I reconnected was that I have just been super working hard on my jazz chops, and I'm loving it. It's such a fun thing to learn, and such a great mode of expression. There's so much that the chromatic harp is capable of, but I'm sitting here like practicing like crazy in my room here, and my thought process is I gotta get this stuff out into the world. I gotta start playing some gigs. This, through the pandemic and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I looked up, wondering if the clubs were starting to open up again. I looked at Vibrato was the first thing I came to, and I saw Barbara Morrison's name there, and I saw that Stu was playing with her, and then literally within 5 minutes of seeing that ad and thinking that, well, maybe I could sit in with them, and I see this email from the Southern California Blues Society saying, it's with extreme regret that I have to tell you that Barbara Morrison has just passed. And I'm just like, Jesus, the timing was bizarre. And then so I called Stu at that point, and then that's where we it was like the
Hooked up again, yeah.
So it's really sad that we lost her, but I'm really grateful to reconnect with Stu, and he's such a great guy and great musician.
Yep.
So I'm really very happy about that aspect of it.
Hey, Chris, I would like to ask you something.
Yeah.
You've had so many great moments, some of which with Stu and some across the board. Are there certain moments that stand out for you that you'll kind of never forget, that are like outrageous?
Well, as far as like just performing in general, yeah, one of the real highlights, I mean, obviously the Say session was a really big one for me, but just playing at the Waterfront Blues Festival, that picture that you have of me,
Yeah,
that's from that show, and where we got a standing ovation, and I signed and sold CDs for about 45 minutes, and it was just, and then like the band after our set, the band that was on stage, you killed them, it's just, I was so in the zone, and my dad was still alive there, so I called him out and said, Dad, because my dad wanted to be a singer, he grew up during the Depression, and he was never able to get one gig, but he was so into the big band thing, he knew all the players and all the records,
Yeah.
and so he kind of translated that to me, and it was funny, like he would wear my band t-shirts, my old band fingertips, he would wear that, and he wore my Hammersmith band t-shirt, and so, and you were mentioning Stardust, that I played Stardust at my dad's service,
Oh.
and so that song has a particular special meaning
Yeah.
for me,
I can tell, Chris. Yeah, man, it's beautiful playing. Just beautiful melody on your CD. Yeah.
Is that CD available right now or not yet?
Hot off the press. Woo, baby.
Cool.
Sublime.
Can I hear a little bit of it or no, not yet? Is it like on Spotify or YouTube or anything?
It is not out on any streaming media. I could play it on my CD player.
But I don't know if we can hear
yeah,
the music anyway.
The problem is, we just ran into that. I don't understand why that's an issue, but
Chris, you got to get it up on the platforms.
Yeah. Well,
you can do it.
I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do that, Stu?
Yeah, you pay somebody and they'll do it for you.
That's what I do. I can do it, but I would rather pay somebody.
Yeah.
Also, like I like to pay people to put it out for reviews and to get it on radio.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, so K-Jazz now has a cut.
Gotta borrow more money, Chris.
You mean you're not super wealthy, Chris?
Man.
I'm a proud thousandaire.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I always like to get people's opinions because you always hear something new and cool. So, and I'll ask you too, Stu, but let's start with Chris. So, what do you, I'm not even sure how to phrase it, but what do you think about this life that we've picked? And the fact that we're pretty much, not usually compensated well enough. And, we're just going to live life and continue to be these artists. And how do you feel about that, that road, that path?
Trying to remember the guy's name. I just read a quote from him, but he said it so profoundly, so beautifully. He's a famous author, and basically the gist of what he said was that any artistic endeavor is its own reward. I mean, I'm totally paraphrasing, and really this is now it's more like my words, but that was the substance of what he was saying. So if it's merely financial reward you're seeking, then you're missing the main point of it. I mean, even like Prince's first album, and a lot of people say that that's his best for you, and that album is genius. It's whoa.
Yeah,
it went to like number 180 on the charts, and it's funny because at first I was thinking that because think about this, Prince was offered Maurice White as producer. He was 18 years old. He had his record deal with Warner Brothers, and so of course Prince says, "I don't need a producer." Because he's 18. And anyway, so and I was thinking, well, if he had Maurice White, he probably could have sold a lot more records. And then I just happened to find out that this woman who's a friend of mine, I think she was his girlfriend, and she was on Taxi, and was one of the actresses on Taxi, the TV show.
Yeah.
And she said, have you ever heard that first record? And I actually hadn't. So I went back and listened to it, and it's amazing. He played all the records, wrote all the songs, and I could, it was not a commercial effort, but it was genius. So, it's a long floored explanation to answer your question. Then basically, every artistic endeavor is its own reward and is meritorious,
Well, the quote from the book Don Quixote is the lesson I learned. It's such a profound statement, but the journey is the reward, so you realize that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And
exactly.
then I tell students, and people that, why do you do what you do? I kind of say it as a half joking and on the level, but I say, well, it's a mental affliction we all have, some kind of mental disorder that we have this music in us 24/7, and that if you want to pursue it as a career, and it would be that you have no alternative, and if that's the case and you give into that, then it has a way of working out.
Yeah.
And I've had some great moments, and I've slogged through a lot of just mediocre time, but it all balances out. And for me, the journey is the reward. I wouldn't
Exactly. And I feel this recording it really showcases you beautifully.
Well, thank you, Chris.
I mean,
yeah.
I hope that didn't sound so.
No, I hear you, man, and I'm thrilled to be there. And like anything else, you just keep putting it out there. Be true to yourself.
I mean, there's just a ton of beautiful Stu's playing, of Stu's beautiful playing. Yeah, so
fool them again,
So and Stu had recommended a number of the tunes on here, and got the guys, Mike Garola and Charles Ruggiero, who just fantastic rhythm section. So the three of them get together, it's like a freaking train, man. So,
it's a different group on the record.
It's different bass player and drummer, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but also just equally potent.
Definitely, and they're great. Yeah. We have an embarrassment of riches here for players.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think you're number 556 that I've interviewed.
Wow.
And so I've heard a lot of cool stories. And the thing that strikes me over and over and over again is people mostly said they were just going ahead with the next gig or the next day, or they thought of going out somewhere to hear somebody and they met blah blah, David Amram, who's like in his 80s, and he was the choice French horn player on the bebop records in the old days. He went to see Charlie Parker one night, and he got introduced to Charlie Mingus, who said, "Oh, okay, you want to come to Europe with me?"
Wow.
It was just like that, just things just anyway, stories after stories after stories. Like Chris, you were telling me, you worked at the spaghetti factory with all those people.
Great American Food Beverage, yeah.
Oh yeah, it just happens, it just and I think as you go on, especially getting older, right? We just kind of are looking at what feels good, what doesn't, deciding that we want what feels good, and being kind of calm about it, like, yeah, this is it. It's nice.
You reminded me of the old joke about the musician was asked, "What are you going to do now that you've won the lottery?" And he said, "Well, I'll just keep playing until the money runs out."
I remember that. Okay, here's a Taylor Hatch question. Between the both of you, what would you say to artists of younger generations that are in the works of trying to find their own voice for themselves? That's always a good question because, especially as a teacher, it's interesting. How do you tell somebody how to find their own voice,
For me, what I love doing, and my discipline is recording myself every time I practice. I record myself every single day.
Oh.
So this is how you discover what you like in your playing, what you don't like, and also, ask for feedback from people, but if you really want to be the, I hate to say harshest critic, but of your own playing. Yeah, so that's simply it. I just have, this is what I love. Unfortunately, they don't make these exact ones anymore, but I have this beautiful little Marantz recorder here.
Yeah.
Very high quality. It's
Right.
portable. You can, plug in a good quality mic and
How much you want for it, Chris? I'll give you $20 right now.
Yeah, sure, Stu.
Yeah.
No problem.
No,
My
you're brave to record yourself. Yeah, I've been told to do that, but I don't, and I should. I see like the kids, coming up now, Cathy, as you say, because I'm doing the vocal accompaniment at UCLA, and a lot of upcoming vocalists and younger piano students. The tools they have these days, YouTube and the transcription tools and all the online stuff is just, I never dreamed that stuff existed coming up.
Yeah.
So they have a huge wealth of material to study, but what they don't have, which is what we had, was to learn in the trenches and learn on the gig and learn tunes by ear and pick up the Great American Songbook, the repertoire and all that. So what I would say, it's just a different world now, and I don't know if the opportunities are there like we had to go and learn from listening and just more interaction that way, in person stuff. And one thing I noticed a lot is that blues seems to be kind of fading from everybody's head space. I don't understand why there's not more of that blues and R&B and that gospel, that beautiful tradition, the emotional part. Or to me, a lot of this stuff is doesn't really connect with live. It's like technically brilliant and a lot of stuff, but if I don't feel it in my heart, I don't get moved emotionally, I'm not drawn into a lot of this stuff. But to anyone coming up today wanting to get their name out there, I'd say go out there and meet other people and respect where we all came from. I mean, you got to look back at this beautiful tradition of standards and blues.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, finding your own voice, it's kind of a mixture of what you guys both said. You have to be in love with the process, because when you're in love with the process, then when you practice or when you go out and play, you're interested in what's happening in the moment. And if there's a tone you get and you notice it, it's like, oh, I like that. And that's how you find your own voice. You do that enough over and over and over again, then you start going, oh, actually, that reminds me, when I was in college, I don't know why I did this, and of course it was in the days of cassettes, right? Remember cassettes?
Of course.
So what
I remember when they were brand new too. Yeah.
So what I did, 8-track. So what I did was I took every single thing that I liked, that I could remember and think of from any record. Like, it could be a bar of something or 4 bars of something or a whole solo, anything that really turned me on. And it was all kinds of music. Motown was big then, and blues, and I was in Boston. So, there was a real yummy mix of music. And I filled up 2 cassette tapes of these little clips.
Wow.
And then I sat down and I wrote down literally from every clip what I liked. Like, I realized I liked fretless bass, from like Weather Report and stuff, I liked certain grooves, I liked certain tones, feels. And then I looked at what I had written, and it was me, right? It was who I was, what I liked. Of course, that doesn't stop the work that's necessary coming afterwards. And like you say, I feel really bad for people coming up now if they're not in a community that's out there working the trenches, because that's how we learned. Good, bad, and different, I mean, we learned from every gig.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy, I got to jump. I'm going to have to get off the call, but I just want to leave by saying thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you, Stu.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Stu.
we've been knowing each other a long time, and you're quite the force of nature in this business, and we're so lucky to have you. Can I
Thanks, man. Well,
Yeah.
I have to interview you singularly.
Okay, well, we'll do it one of these days for sure.
Okay.
My pleasure. All right, Chris, I'll see you next week. Anybody who wants to come see Chris play in person, I think you'll really be well impressed. So hope to see you then.
Thank you,
Okay.
Stu.
Goodbye, everybody. All right. See you
Bye,
soon.
Stu.
Okay. Bye.
Virtual hug.
Well, that was fun. That was cool.
Yeah. That's
Lou
great.
Alster. I keep bumping into him lately. So, yeah, on gigs and, and then his gigs and yeah, it's great. He's a solid guy.
He's a mensch.
Yeah, he is a mensch. Okay, so let's say, okay, so Taylor has another Taylor question.
And this from a guy named Chris.
In this year, what aspirations are you hoping to accomplish and fulfill?
Oh, well, the basic one is to get my music out there and, be worthy of the title of jazz musician. So, and that's, for me, that's a very high bar.
Yeah.
I'm really working hard towards, deserving that moniker. I want to just be out there gigging around doing jazz gigs, and hopefully Stu and I can start getting some performing arts gigs lined up and get some substantial airplay and just continue the learning and growing process.
Okay.
But
That was the answer, Taylor. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's great.
and just sort of to expand the notion of what a harmonica is capable of,
Yeah.
because most of the repertoire that I'm pursuing is not, these songs are not written for harmonica. They're written for saxophone. When I'm doing Anthropology, that's a Charlie Parker song.
Right.
Bob Blue City is a Miles Davis song. So that's the kind of material that I'm doing. So I'm trying to really just avoid the harmonica cliches and in pursuit of it being just a legitimate musical voice.
Yeah. That's okay. That's good. Yeah, that's a cool answer. Do you find, I mean, obviously there's a difference recording in the studio and live, but are there any qualities of either that you especially like, or maybe even have attention on, like maybe in advice to people who are listening, who, are doing both or wanting to do both?
Well, make sure you can hear yourself in the monitors.
Thank you for saying that. I can't tell you how many club owners argue with me about that.
That is one of my frustrating issues, because I love to play live. I
Yeah,
mean, it's real. Like being in a studio is kind of unreal. It's a rarefied environment. I mean, obviously the plus side of it is that you can really maximize the level of performance
yeah,
because you're so focused. But that having people there is what makes it real,
yeah,
and you want, I'm not just doing this for me. I want people to enjoy what I'm doing. I hope that's my goal, is that
yeah,
people, just go, whoa, that just is really connecting to my soul, what you're playing there. That's that's what you want to do, is to transmit that transcendence, the artistic transcendence, to be able to convey that through the medium of the music, through in my case, the harmonica, because that is why I think music is such a special medium, that it's so visceral. It's like, sure, I love going to see a Van Gogh painting, it blows me away, but music is, wow, it really gets you in a very deep, soulful place when it's happening. It's very exciting. So yeah.
While you're speaking, I mean, I totally agree. And I'm thinking of the John Beasley concert this weekend, because it was,
Yeah.
like I said, it was very satisfying. It was, very musical, and it was very heartfelt. I mean, Colburn Theater, the theater there is very nice. It's small, relatively small and intimate. And a lot of people that he knew were there to celebrate his birthday and support,
Right.
And there's one monk tune that just totally, every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I love this song. It's called Train. And
Okay.
it's, I don't know if you know it, but like a train.
Sure. Yeah.
It's such a great song. And, it's not an up tempo, lots of notes song. There's a groove and a feeling of it that is so cool. So yeah, even you just saying that just made me go, reflect on what I've been hearing lately. But that's why I go out a lot too. I love to hear good music. And, I've been booking that place, Kulak's Woodshed, in North
Right.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And there have been some outrageously astonishing nights there with high music level. And because it's so small and funky in there, it's very
Right.
casual. It's like you're in the living room, listening to great music. So yeah, it's been really great going out to hear music again, and after the stupid pandemic.
That was pretty awful. So I'm very intrigued by Thelonious Monk. He was such a bizarre composer. His stuff is just not formulaic at all. It's like he broke all the rules, and he's really embraced by a sort of an elite in the jazz community. So I could see why Beasley would garner a Grammy for taking that music to and developing it further. So yeah, Monk's really something, and
I
then
love Monk,
a
man.
lot of blues in his stuff.
Somebody, I'm doing this gig this weekend at St. Bede's Church in Eagle Rock. You ought to come over on Saturday, and with three guitar players. I'm a guitar girl. I love
Okay.
guitar, and
Yeah.
so over the years I've done strange gigs like with three guitars, or
Right.
what? A singer with three guitars? How did that happen? But anyway, so we're doing a Monk tune that I've just recorded on a no net record, Evidence. Do you know that one?
No.
Bop, 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 ba, ba, da, 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 da. So Monk, right? And
Okay.
I wrote some cool words, and
Oh, great.
yeah, and so why did I bring that up? Well, I don't know, but I think Monk. Oh, I know. So one of the guitar players, because that song, is it that song? Yeah, that song is just you, just me. Ba 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 do da da ba da 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 da. It's actually uses that formula, those chords.
Okay.
And I forget what that's called. There's some name for that, but so
It's called Contrafact.
contrafact, yeah. So so anyway, he said that Monk actually had a lot of songs like that used contrafact, which I actually did not know, I must confess. I know a lot of Monk tunes, but I didn't know that. So it's kind of, that's just a little
You know,
more.
Charlie Parker did that too, you know, like
Yeah,
ornithology and How High the Moon, you know,
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of thing. So that
yeah.
because you can't copyright a chord progression.
Luckily.
But yeah, I mean, in fact, John Coltrane, like what, maybe a month after he did Kind of Blue with Miles, that, you know, just gorgeous, gorgeous album.
Yes,
It had So What on it, you know. And
yes.
a month later, Coltrane does Impressions, which is the same. It's a contrafact, but he just put a little bit of a melody to it, you know, and sped it up a whole bunch. And in fact, I'm opening my show with that song.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, cool.
yes, that
Very
tempo,
cool.
very challenging. 300 beats
Yeah,
a minute, you know.
yeah, yeah, that's
But
great.
it's great because just that energy, you know.
Yeah.
Ba, da, ba, da, da, ba, 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 da, ba, da. And Wes Montgomery does an awesome version of that. You know? So
Right.
I'm stealing some stuff from Wes. Huge Wes fan. So, you know.
Well, I want to, I'd like to hear a little more music, and
Okay.
I'm bringing you up. Oh, and I don't think you are on Spotify, right?
I'm not, no.
Okay, so you're on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to YouTube
Okay.
and type you in, Chris Smith. Oh, but I have to say, is Jamocha the only thing on, or?
Well, the whole CD, there's, you know, all the songs in that CD are on there. I mean, and some of the session things they did, obviously, Say is on there. I Know You by Heart is on there. The duet with Smokey Robinson
Oh, wow.
and Dolly Parton. I don't know.
And so a duet, so the duet with Smokey, was that on the solo or was that on the whole thing, or?
I think it's on the Dolly Parton was the artist, but it's called I Know You by Heart. Also, let's see, that David Benoit,
Oh, cool.
but unfortunately he's got to be really low in the mix on that, which is unfortunate. I played
Oh,
called Shibuya Station, which is a
yeah.
Japanese train station.
Shibuya Station. Yep, I know it. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna go to the bathroom while I do that.
Okay.
So down the hall, so I'll be able to hear this, but I'm gonna continue on to the next song, and on this,
Okay.
and take a moment. Are you there, Chris? I think Chris dropped off. Maybe he, let's see. Maybe he doesn't know that he dropped off. Let's see. There he is. There he is. Hey, you dropped off.
Hello?
Hi.
I lost you there for a second. I completely came out of the meeting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, you're back. So that's good. Yeah, that was cool to listen to. You know, it's such good playing that, I mean, that kind of music could be just background because it's just got a good groove. But when you really focus on the music and the playing, it's really good. It's groovy. Everybody's really listening to each other. There's space. It's musical, right? It's really
Right. It was interesting because I haven't heard that in a long time. And like the A section there, I was because I switched back and forth between diatonic and chromatic. So on the A section, I'm double tracked to two different tracks of diatonic harmonica, and I just with that little staccato thing I was doing, it almost sounded like a flute there, which was
Huh.
cool, you know, ba-da-da, you know, that
Yeah.
little melody. So that was the way that originated. Was Bees had a rhythm track for that, and he wanted me to write the melody. So it came up, and he couldn't figure out what to play on top of it. So I came up with that little part, and he goes, "Yeah, that's it," you know. So, and
Yeah, it sounded really good.
so yeah,
Was that at the end what sounded like a keyboard? Was that the Iwi?
I'm not sure. No, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
It sounded like a, I'll show you what I mean. Take a listen to this.
So-
See what I mean? Sounds like a keyboard. But there's no keyboard on this.
Oh, there's keyboard on there.
Oh, it's not listed.
Oh, yeah. Bees is on every track.
Ah, okay. Oh, yeah, he's not listed on this.
Oh,
Just so
yeah.
you know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think that's Dean Parks on the rhythm guitar in that. On that, and
You have listed as Bob Mann and Eric Gale.
oh, okay. And so on that previous song, that was Eric Gale who did that solo on Jamocha. By the way, do you know who Eric Gale? I don't. Is he still alive? I don't think.
That I don't know,
I
but
don't think he's.
I'll
Still
go
alive.
look on the internet. But
Yeah, so he was. You know who he is, right, or was.
I think it looks, well, is this him? Eric Gales or Gale?
Gale.
Yeah,
He
Eric
was in the Jazz Crusaders and stuff.
Gales. Yeah, there's only like on the internet, there's a lot of Eric Gales. Eric Gales. But it's
Eric
that's
Gale, guitarist.
not
Wikipedia.
Yes, Eric Gale.
Was an American jazz and R&B guitarist.
Yeah, he died in 1994.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's too
So-
bad. Oh, there he is. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember him.
Yes.
1994.
So
Yeah.
I did it.
Not very old when he died.
Yeah, that's unfortunate when people die so young like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm getting up in years here, and I just sort of feel like I really want to, maximize everything that I'm doing right now. You know, I take Grandma Moses as my role model here.
Grandma Moses. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Do you know who she was?
Yeah, but what do you mean
Well, she
taking a
started
role on?
in earnest. She started her artistic career at 78 years old, and she
Oh,
wound up selling a painting that's for $1 million. She became very well known in the art world.
I didn't know that history.
Yeah, that she's like the classic example of old geezerdom being successful.
There's hope, you mean? There's
Yeah,
hope for us?
takes thing, so it can be done.
So you practice a lot, apparently?
I practice quite a bit, yes.
What do
I'm
you what do you practice? Do you practice technique, or is that not really happening anymore?
well,
Is it more?
especially now because this show is a huge show for me. This is my first time playing at this venue, and they have, world famous jazz musicians at Catalina's. I mean,
Yeah,
you've been there, I'm sure,
like
right?
Cathy Segal-Garcia. Yeah.
What, you've done a gig there or a
Oh
gig?
yeah, definitely several over the years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, I'm running through my repertoire now, But yeah, I work on my technique, and I'm every time I practice, I'm always recording myself.
Do you practice every day in hours or
Yeah, I practice anywhere from 3 to 8 hours a day,
wow.
so I'm into it, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's like work, sometimes it's like
Yeah.
but it's work that I love. So um but if right now I'm really focused in on the repertoire. When I have a little extra time, I like to take the some of the Jamie Aebersold records, play along records, CDs, and I think Jamie Aebersold is probably like the best music teacher on the planet. I mean, the guy's a fantastic musician. He won I guess it was the Genius Award from the National Endowment for the Arts one year.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and so I like to try going through all those CDs and playing along with those tracks to work on my fluency in all 12 keys. And I particularly like doing blues improvisation on the chromatic, which is not really done that much. And most blues harmonica playing you hear on the diatonic. So I like doing that on the chromatic. And yeah, so that's really my thing. It's for me, the big challenge is to be able to play melodically and negotiate chord changes.
Okay.
That's a big part of it. And of course, the rhythm is like super important.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my approach to it. And
Yeah, I was talking with somebody yesterday about swing,
yeah,
and can't remember who it was, but they wanted to try and learn swing better. Oh, I know. It was a flute player I know. And she's an improvisational flutist, like very
yeah,
good at that.
yeah.
But she was really, working on her swing chops. And yeah, we were talking about that. And how people swing different ways, there's just,
That's kind of personal, though, isn't it? Oh, no.
I know we were talking about swing and we were surrounded by people and I was thinking, I wonder if people are getting the wrong idea. You don't just hear conversation about swinging, next the next table. But yeah, there's so yeah, that's it's interesting but that's kind of a self-discovery too, because some people say Charlie Hayden doesn't swing. I think he does in his own way. Maybe he doesn't swing like Paul Chambers. Yeah, because they're two different people. They're two different musicians. But there's a lot to learn. I try and deposit things in my head. Like I got that. There's a new book with of Michael Brecker scales.
Uh-huh.
So I love Michael Brecker, and I've just always loved him. And I got the book, so I go through the scales, and just deposit stuff in my head. I don't know at which point I'll pull it out, but it'll come out.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's an amazing musician.
yeah.
So that's interesting that you bring up Paul Chambers, because he he didn't live for very long, but he was
Oh,
really like at the pinnacle in his brief career there. He played on Kind of Blue, and
yeah,
he was, I guess, the first call guy.
yeah.
Because in fact, I think he even was an artist of his own recordings, right?
Yes, he was. Yeah, I last year I produced his son.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah,
Wow.
he's a singer here in town named Pierre Chambers, who has
Oh,
a very natural jazz feel and makes really good jazz choices. So
uh,
yeah, we produced his first record.
wow.
Yeah, it's called
How cool
Chinatown.
is that to have a dad who played on Kind of Blue? You
Can you
know,
imagine?
I can't. No,
Yeah.
that's just like I.
Well, I interviewed Michelle Coltrane. That's, you know, pretty heavy parentage.
Yeah, exactly.
Alice Coltrane and John Coltrane. Wow. She's really a good singer too. She's
Yeah.
kind of more of like a jazz R&B singer, but she's so good. It's really great. She's really good to listen to. Have you heard her?
I don't know that I have. I think I bumped into her over at that little Pips.
Pips, yeah.
Yeah,
Check her out sometime. Her music, it's really she's she's good. She's really a good singer.
certainly has the lineage.
I know. Can you believe it? Yeah, her mother was quite special too, you know. But yeah, so there's a lot of people in this town too who have various famed parentage, like movie and that kind of stuff. There's so many people. I know one guy, Gary Bavona, whose father, Gus Bavona, was the alto player, like Hollywood alto player in the old days. He was the first call guy. And Gary grew up around all these musicians and writers and um, so Gus's sister was a big band singer, and she was married to, I can't remember his name, but he wrote Thanks for the Memory and like all these songs. I mean, wow, I almost did a show about Gary's heritage because I was so fascinated with it. It's like, wow, that would be a really cool show to develop. But yeah, there's so many people here who have um, come from that. It's really interesting, really interesting.
Yep, we've got the best musicians on the planet here.
I know.
So Stu and I went to see Emmett Cohen over at
I was so sorry I missed that. Yeah.
it was sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just barely got in there. I snuck in with a table. Mandy had told me like 2 months in advance that he's copying me in. But anyway, so yeah, that was quite cool. That was an awesome show. You know about Emmett Cohen, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm so impressed with him.
Yeah, it's 33. And every one of those guys in that trio, they were all just killers, you know. That was
So he brought his trio with him. Is that right?
yes, I guess they're
Yeah.
touring. He tours quite a bit.
Yeah, he's amazing and a really cool guy. Doesn't he appear like a really cool guy?
He seems like it. I just talked to him really briefly, and it was right before he's going on, so it was like,
Yeah.
that's not a good time to talk to somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Do
He's
you Do you write also these
I
days?
do, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, like on that Jamoke album, several of the songs on there were ones that I had written, but I haven't. I've really been working on my chops
Yeah.
more in the last few years, and haven't really gotten into writing that much. And so that's going to be phase two, after I
Yeah.
work this project. But I mean, it's comforting doing standards in that, the material is tried and true. So that's the plus side of it. And, and you stick yourself out there and saying, okay, well, this is what I can do with these tunes. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean, you project much more of your own personality through your own original compositions. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, unfortunately, not everybody is a fantastic composer. So, I mean, I love doing that, but it's comforting to know that you have a solid material. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. How do you feel about as a pretty much single line artist, right? Single line instrument. Although I'm sure you play chordally too, but I would imagine you think of yourself more.
Single note instrument. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, single note.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about and actually it's to me it's two different areas kind of my songs that um my songs my songs that I write and also the standards. How do you feel about playing the real melodies, and playing your own loose development of it? Do you feel like I must do the real melody first to show people what it is, or to commit to the authorship of it, or how do you feel about that?
I feel like ultimately you want to make your music interesting, and if it's too rote, and I don't want to use this word, but let's say I like to mess with the melody.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Let's put it that way. We'll clean it up with say that.
Right, right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, you take blanking on his name for a second here. Chet Baker. Okay,
Okay, okay.
Chet Baker.
Yeah.
Listen to how he plays Bye Bye Black, or Miles Davis, same thing. How they do Bye Bye Blackbird. They're not playing it like just da 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 da. You know what I mean? They're messing with it a lot. They're leaving out notes, they're anticipating notes, they're doing staccato, they're throwing in blues stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that's your obligation. You have to do that. And Toots, Toots, a lot, he won't even come near a melody a lot of times. So, you know what I'm saying? I think that's part of the jazz process, is to do serious augmentation and ornamentation,
Right, right.
make it interesting, is you want to make your music interesting and fun, there's a little fun, a little bounce. It's you have to do that, and that's part of the attraction for me of playing, is ideally not doing the same way twice.
Yeah.
So if you can infuse your playing with freshness like that, with spontaneity, it's very attractive, it's very appealing, I feel, because it's got that energy of creative energy and spontaneity,
So, what about your own songs? Because I find as a songwriter, I kind of tend to want to show people the real melody, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I haven't done my own material for quite a while, so I'm not a good person to really ask that. Although what I'm thinking of is this one song that has gotten this consistently good airplay. It's called "You and Me," and like this, I pretty much worked out a solo part on it. So I
yeah,
played that the same. I've played that the same all the time, and really didn't vary it very much. And yeah, I would, you know, but since then, because I wrote that a long time ago, since then, I mean, my attitude is really a lot more of let's take chances, let's try stuff differently.
yeah.
You know.
I heard James Taylor a few years ago at the Bowl, and well, first of all, he has a jazz band.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
and second of all, well, I've always loved James Taylor, and
oh, yeah.
I was so happy to hear him play his music. Every song he plays, people know, right? Like an anthem.
Yeah.
But he was playing it in this style we're talking about, taking chances
Yeah.
in a jazz way. It was
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah.
loved hearing him do that.
James Taylor is awesome. Yeah, he's quite a musician and singer and songwriter. I do play guitar, by the way.
Oh,
And the main reason that I picked up the guitar, and it was a long time ago. I mean, it was only a few years after I started playing harmonica, was because I was writing so many lyrics and writing so many songs, and I was getting together with people, and I couldn't communicate chordally. I didn't know what
yeah,
I needed to learn what chords were,
yeah,
so I could harmonize the ideas of my song the way I wanted to hear them. So that's how I picked it up. And then I started just going through all these various songs. So in fact, when I used to tour with my trio, it was just bass drums and myself, and I played quite a bit of guitar there. I was taking all the guitar solos. So I do have that background. It really helps to, if you're going to play jazz or any kind of music, to have harmonic knowledge and know what the chords are, what the construction of chords and stuff. But that mainly the way I'm using my guitar now is to help me memorize progressions of songs, like All the Things You Are, which is a very complex song in 5 different keys. So by having my guitar, I can just go, okay, yeah, that's what the progression is, and just to get it in my head while I'm doing it, I find that really helpful.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Um, what do you recall any big piece of advice that you were given over the years that kind of shook your world?
Musically or in the business?
Oh, either one.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't really have an answer right at the tip of my tongue for that. But I'm really thinking that the core of it is to just be who you are.
Yeah,
That's would be my advice. That and I've given this to other people. I'm sort of reversing this now, but you want to project your personality in your playing, that because everyone is unique, and I'm finding that through this constant recording that I don't think anybody else plays like me. So that's how you establish your uniqueness, you know. So I think that's what you want to strive for, is accentuating the things that make you you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know a lot of names of harmonica players. It's not an
Well,
instrument that's in
yeah,
my
you
wheelhouse
know
much.
Toots, you know Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
There
But
was
what about like these days?
these days. Well, I mean, there's a young guy. There's Jason Ritchie, who plays the diatonic. He's one of those overblower guys, and Howard Levy is another one. We lost Norton Buffalo. He was great, and I don't know, you probably heard of him or no?
No.
Okay. Well, you remember Bonnie Raitt's version of Runaway?
Yes.
That was Norton Buffalo playing the harmonica on that
Okay.
song. So, but yeah, let's see. There's a guy, Heinrich Nierkens, who's playing the chromatic. He's playing jazz stuff. So there's a ton of people playing harmonica. There's not, like any superstars really that I know of, but
Yeah.
the harmonica is actually, in fact, the world's most popular instrument.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that, but it makes sense because it's the most portable, the cheapest generally. So yeah,
There used to be a jazz guy here named Ron Kalina, who
right.
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a pianist too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's Howard Levy is the same combination where he uses a diatonic, and he was, such a good musician that he knew harmony so well that those kind of went hand in hand. So yeah, but I guess Ron Kalina is no longer with us, right?
Yeah, he died a while back. Actually, my friend was just here from New Jersey, Paul Jost. Really great singer, great drummer, and he sounds great on harmonica. And he probably plays diatonic. He had like 4 of them. So
Okay.
that would be in different keys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he sounds great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say he's, a famous guy who you think of first as harmonica. It's kind of like a great extra tool for him,
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about or tell? And we're coming towards the end, and it's been a fun conversation. Glad Stu Elster joined us too,
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. So
Yeah.
well, just the show is at Catalina Jazz.
Show us the record again.
Okay, yeah, it's called Sublime, and it's a pun with the harmonica underneath the lime. You see, sublime.
Oh, okay.
That's the joke. And I wanted to point out the T-shirt that I'm wearing, of course. Can you read it?
Yeah, like a normal dad, except much cooler.
There you go. Harmonica Dad T-shirt. Yeah. My son's mom gave me this years ago. And it faded out, so I recently repurchased it.
Oh.
Susan was really special.
Uh-huh.
That's mom, and my son's coming over tonight, Otis,
Oh, cool.
named after Otis Redding.
Oh, nice.
So, unfortunately, he's not a music nut like I am, but he has definite talent, and he did pretty well on keyboards. But so anyway, I hope people come down to my show. Catalina's my first time playing there, and got great band. Got
Oh,
the CD. We're going to be releasing for the first time ever.
how are you promoting the show? Do you have a mailing list?
Yeah, I've got my Facebook. I've got the little emailing list, so I've been doing that and handing out tons of flyers, and
Oh, good.
so yeah.
Hey, well, I have a studio session that day, but I don't know if it doesn't go into the evening, the late evening, I'll come over.
That would be
I'd
awesome.
really love to come over, so I will try.
That would be awesome. We can meet in person.
Yeah, and I can hear you guys. I'm sure it's going to be so good, so cool.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thanks for being on, Chris. I appreciate it. And
Thank you for having
um,
me.
you know, these go into archives. So just if you ever want to see the archive and you can't find it, if it's, you know, like too far down on Facebook, you can just go to my website and I have the archives listed there.
Cool.
And yeah, you can just look yourself up and download it.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this. This is fantastic.
You're welcome. Have a great gig. I'm sure it's going to be fun. I hope to be there.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Cathy.
Okay, Chris, have a good day.
You too.